Hey everyone, this is the 20th anniversary edition LEGO Star Wars Slave One. Boba Fett's edition, of course. It is similar in size to a couple of others that have been made in the past. Sized down quite a bit relative to the Ultimate Collector's Series version, but built like an Ultimate Collector's Series version. This has a very, very advanced design and is definitely worth building if you are interested in what it looks like as a finished product. I had my doubts in advance, but having this here in person now, I can definitely say that this is a viable alternative to the more expensive Ultimate Collector's Series set, and that is very, very high praise. There are actually a fair number of things that I like better about this one than the range-topping 2015 version. This does look good from pretty much every angle, and not just when it's sitting on the table like this. I'll show you some of its slightly transformative features, which are very important. Makes maximal use of the most recent pieces that LEGO has added to its part inventory. Things like the 1x1 bracket, the half round tiles, the rounded 1x2 plates with the hollow studs, got the quarter round tiles, the 3x3x1 wedge slopes, which are, I think, the newest part molds in this set, the 2x2 corner tiles, as well as the 2x6 double rounded plate. This has, of course, tons and tons of studs on the side construction. There's upside down building, there's diagonal building in it, and some of the best integration that I personally have ever seen between Technic construction and traditional brick-based construction. Very, very purposeful. All of it is very meaningful. It doesn't feel like there were multiple people working on different parts of this. Like often there's a Technic specialist who will come in on large LEGO projects and really have a lot of input on the Technic core, the Technic skeleton of an otherwise system-based build. There isn't a Technic skeleton in the center of this. There are Technic pieces, but there's just really great integration between the two. Fortunately, with that hybrid build, it's also very strong. I mean, look at that. Holding it by the thinnest point on the tail there, and I have no worries about this coming apart. It doesn't give me any concern whatsoever. This is probably stronger even than the Ultimate Collector Series version was. And then it has the classic gravity-driven winglets, and you can change the angle of the little flaps back there ever so slightly. I don't know if that was an intentional feature or just how it worked out with the construction, but yeah, these will turn automatically like so. You do need to be careful when you're assembling this to make sure that there isn't any undue friction in there. I think I have a little bit too much on this side over here. That was just entirely my fault. You want to be pretty precise. It's fairly foolproof in its design for the assembly process, but obviously you still can't have just a little bit. There's just a little bit of bowing in there on the axle, but it works well. It's definitely designed well. There we go. It's a little bit better already. Nice little bits of detail on the winglets as well. And let me tell you, the way that this part in here with the strut, the way that works is great. You know, just getting it into that space at that angle so securely, it's really nice. Again, you just have to build this. If you like what it looks like, you've got to go through the process of building it. Even looking at the instructions, can be a joy if you're really into LEGO building techniques, but you have to get your hands on it to really understand and to really appreciate it properly. So this does have the detail around the back or the underside as well, as you would expect. And there's a little more Technic stuff there. This is great. It's a handle that attaches to the strongest, well, I was going to say the strongest core vertebra of the spine of it, but it doesn't really have that. It's really an integral design. Everything is strong where it needs to be throughout this entire build. It all works together. So that's just another nice thing for the sake of play, and even adults can appreciate this, for just picking it up and swishing it, making it one of the more swishable things that LEGO has ever made. I mean, it's got a handle, but it fully retracts in. So you don't have this ugly thing sticking out all the time. The colors are fine. They're not using a whole lot of bright red and yellow and green and such. You do have a couple little red things up here. You might recognize those as parts that are typically used for shifting mechanisms in Technic transmissions. Well, those are the triggers for these spring-loaded missile shooters. It's all the way up here, and you're shooting these things all the way down here, which are integrated in very nicely, and it works perfectly. It's another thing that in the build requires a lot of steps. It takes quite a while for it to get there, but when it all goes together, it just goes together. You don't have to tune it. It's not finicky, It's good stuff. Check this out. Back here, the cargo bay. The whole thing opens up very, very simply. Nice and smooth right here, but then there's enough room for it to open up, and you can fit Han Solo in there. In Carbonite, you can also fit other things in there, probably some of the more useful space that they've ever had on one of these builds. And the Han Solo and Carbonite here is in the dark gunmetal gray. It's the same design that they've been using for quite some time, the same mold, but I still like it personally. It's much better than having to clip it in. And then for the cockpit, all of this just comes off very easily, and there's a panel on one side which uses a sticker, a panel on the other side which uses a sticker, and then up here, that's a printed piece that we're familiar with. And I'm not sure if you noticed the seating area down there in the center. It's also gravity driven, as it should be, so that's able to rotate. And with Boba Fett in place, you can see how that actually works. It's plenty slick, and if you want him to be facing towards the front, for its seated position, you can just turn him around because they've got the 4 studs down there. So if this is the look that you're going for, well, there you have it. I feel like this does everything I could ask of a toy, a collector's item, and a Lego build. Lego's Boba Fetts have been excellent for some years now. This is definitely no exception. The colors chosen are wonderful. The level of detail is great. The production quality is also very good here. The lines are mostly crisp. I love the 2-colored cloth piece there. The use of the sand green and sand blue, of course, is excellent. But this one is missing arm printing. They've done arm printing for this character, and I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I believe, I'm fairly confident that they left off arm printing not to be cheap, but rather to avoid being flamed on by adults and teen collectors who invested into the version with the arm printing, to preserve some exclusivity for the fully printed up version. Is that the best thing for consumers in general? No. I feel like that's caving and just being afraid of very, very loud, online complainers, because they could easily have included the arm printing here with very, very little impact to the cost of this figure. I do not believe it's a financial decision that they made there. I know there will be people who argue against that, but I think this was done just to appease adult collectors and teen collectors, and as a result, a lot of people are going to lose out because of that. A lot of people are not going to get the best possible version of a Lego Boba Fett. It's an interesting conundrum because I actually fully understand and respect both sides of the argument. If I had spent the big bucks for the UCS version of the Slave 1 and got the exclusive figure, and then they released that exact same figure later in a cheaper set, I would probably be a little upset. That's something that I had saved up for and was very proud of, no longer had the value to me or to others. But on the other hand, it would have been great if folks today with lower budgets would have been able to get the better Fett. Also, this has just the generic Django clone face and not the UCS exclusive version. Yes, this is Zuckuss. Finally, an official Lego Zuckuss. It's great to have it no matter what it looks like. Fortunately, it does look pretty good. It's got that brand new mold for the head, which, yeah, I think is pretty proper from the important angles. You can't rotate the head, but that's fine. They use the minifig leg length special flowing robe piece for the base, which is printed on the front and the back. The torso print on the back is pretty good. I don't think I've ever seen what he's supposed to look like from around the back. And the molding around the back of the head is also very good. Maybe even a little bit cooler to me than the front. But just to get this figure officially is great in the first place. And I think they did a pretty decent job. They may do better jobs in the future, possibly even including a cloth coat piece to go with them, I think would be good. But this is an excellent start, and I am not complaining. With Forlom here, you can really see the shining metallic flake in the gunmetal gray arms and legs and body there. This has really good prints. They go straight through from the torso to the hips to the legs, not lined up perfectly, but pretty good as Lego stuff goes. And the printing for the eyes is just in the right place. I mean, I guess it could be a little bit more perfect, but I can't ask for better than this. The registration is pretty good. It's crisp around the edges. It looks nice. This looks good from around the back. I personally think this is probably a better figure than Zuckuss, as a figure. But certainly Zuckuss being brand new and having been desired for so long has more value in this set. It's kind of funny to think that Han Solo is probably the least interesting figure in this set, but it's still a well-produced figure. The little lines on the inner shirt, I think, really do it for this one. That little attention to detail is nice. The skin tone print around the neck is not so great, on the torso. Needs to be more opaque, but otherwise a fairly well produced figure, and he does have 2 facial expressions, which is important. This one looks much better when you frame it up with that hair piece. And then each of the 20th anniversary boxed sets comes with a throwback figure. So this is Leia from the year 2000's Millennium Falcon. This was the original Leia, and she has been reproduced here quite faithfully. You got the twin bun hairpiece in just the regular brown, the old style blaster before they started doing molds, just a megaphone with a stud piece on it. There's one exception here, and one thing that I personally really dislike. It's that print. It just makes it kind of look like a store magnet kind of thing, or a keychain version, just because it's so big. It's not subtle at all. But I don't know, honestly, what they could have done to make me happy about that, because ideally I would like this to be, just a regular looking figure, something that doesn't announce to the world as soon as you're looking at it slightly from the side that it's not a true, proper figure. But maybe just a different print on the back with a very subtle little 20th anniversary thing would have been more useful. But as it is, this is mostly intended to be just a collector item, So if you want a Leia that looks good in stop motions from every angle and everything, this is just not going to do it for you, unfortunately. Of course, yellow skin tone, single face head. They tried to be as accurate as possible, just with the one exception of the 20th anniversary print on the back. They're also doing this stand, which features a printed modified tile piece, the 4x4 that she's standing upon. So that's actually really nice. And each of these sets also includes an extra 2x4 plate for connecting multiple of these together. So if you collect multiple of them, then you can connect them and have them in a nice, neat little line. So that's very tasteful and very classy, if you ask me. As simple as it is, I really like that presentation there. Let's talk about value. With about 1,000 pieces, including some very large and expensive ones, relative to the average, and also including a nice selection of figures, including a brand new one, it's very easy to price this over $100. Looking at it objectively, I would say probably 110 US would kind of be the target. They actually placed it at 120, which is within the range. However, I do have to say, looking at the the actual ship in person, just the size of it, which is pretty accurate to what's on the box. So if you see this in person, if you see the box, you know how large the actual build is going to be, which is wonderful. Great to see. But that volume of stuff to me feels like it should be $100, just $100 flat. I mean, ideally, I'd love to see it at 90. I mean, honestly, just looking at the size of it in person. So I'm willing to compromise between my subjective feelings and more objective analysis of what it should be, and I'll say I'd like to see it at 100 to 110. As it is 120 compared to the UCS version, which had fewer figures but is much larger at 200, I think probably makes for some interesting discussion and debate, but then again, I do have to go back to the quality of the build and the build experience, and this really is on par with the UCS version in that sense, if not better, probably better. High praise indeed, but delivered with intent. If you want to see how this goes together, you can check out my speed build over on my build channel. It's not done too fast, so you can follow along, and I do show all of the steps along the way with no skipping. I'll link to that right now. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. I will talk to you again very soon.